We are being recorded, trying to get on Facebook.
Daniel, it's good to see you on remote this time.
Feels weird.
Everyone from our office is on, so that's
and hi, Devon. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, it's great to be here.
All right, I say that we go ahead and just kind of kick it off. I think we have some people joining in on Facebook Live as well, and we just leave the room open for anybody else who may join in. But with that, welcome everyone to the Community Entrepreneurship Hour. My name is Dia Ghosh with Data Jobs Foundation, and we are super excited today to kind of go out of the norm, and instead of featuring just an entrepreneur, early stage entrepreneur, this time we're wanting to talk about one of the service organizations here in Oklahoma that plays a really key role in the startup ecosystem and in the tech field. So Devon Mobley, thank you so much for joining us today. Devon is a board member on Techlahoma, which is a network of more than 4,000 IT workers, hobbyists, students, teachers, and future technologists. Devon is also a co-founder of several startups, with one of them being Smarter Firms. So I will let Devon talk a lot more about Techlahoma and his experience as a startup founder and kind of being weaved into this network, and how potentially people from Ada can engage and kind of benefit from this organization. So again, Devon, thank you for being here, and I'm just gonna hand it over to you.
Great, yeah. Well, thank you all for having me. I'm always happy to talk about Techlahoma. It's a organization that's been really core to my career and to kind of where my career has taken off into the world of startups and stuff like that. And just also getting to know people and people trying to do cool things, innovative things, whether it's on the tech side, from like doing the actual engineering side, or whether it's entrepreneurs or investors or ecosystem builders or whoever trying to just make Oklahoma and their local communities better places and bring in great jobs that are future proof or more future proof. So I think the best way for me to kind of like foray into everything that I got going on and that we do as a foundation at the Techlahoma Foundation is to just kind of tell briefly my story. So I am not originally from Oklahoma. I moved here when I was in high school, and then went to OU. I ended up graduating with a philosophy degree. So I am, one of those who went the humanities route. But then I got into IT while I was in school, and then ended up kind of leveraging that into a network engineering, infrastructure engineering type role at a hospital here in town, Oklahoma Heart Hospital. And so that was a crew that was really innovative in how they looked at performance improvement from a healthcare perspective and different things. So that opened up an opportunity to look at doing some reporting, business intelligence, and really just kind of custom development side. So I actually kind of got the opportunity to learn code on the job. It started with basic sort of like business intelligence stuff, and that eventually led into web and mobile technologies. And so really my training, my vocational kind of side is really on the engineering side as a software developer. In 2017, I partnered to open up a co-working space in Moore, Oklahoma, and that kind of opened up a door to be able to meet all sorts of awesome entrepreneurs. I started going to events like this one a lot more and meeting people who were involved in that space. And then not soon after that, or not too long after that, is when I got involved, being more involved in the Techlahoma Foundation, going to user group meetups and being involved on Slack. And kind of the combination of those things, meeting more people and being involved, led to a couple of opportunities at locally funded startups. One was Whiteboard CRM, which is in the mortgage industry. The other was a company called Cinderide. Got recruited away to there to run their product and technology. And both of those were really awesome experiences. And I think moving from kind of the corporate sort of tech world, I was already in technology, but moving from enterprise to more of a startup type role. And then of course, like hearing all the voices that are involved around in the community really opened up my eyes to just kind of the whole ecosystem perspective. And so last year, whenever the pandemic hit, we were actually in Oklahoma City in our senior centers. We're already experiencing a bit of a flu pandemic, and that really shut down operations at Cinderide. And so that led to me being let go at that company. And from there, I just kind of went directly into trying to land a remote job of some sort. And really just the job sort of market was weird at the time. There's plenty of jobs, but there's also a lot of risk aversion in the market and uncertainty and everything, as you all well know. And so really it just ended up leading to me cobbling together a consulting company where I was able to help people both with providing services to provide technology services to folks, as well as consult on helping build all of that. And so, which then led me to several opportunities, several side projects, several smaller startups, and then one venture-backed startup, Smarter Firms. I connected with the lawyers at a company called Ballmore Slow, a law firm called Ballmore Slow. And then we built a product that we wanted to commercialize. And so anyways, that's kind of led to like where we are now. And then last December, someone nominated me to become part of the board of Techlahoma. So I'm a really new board member to Techlahoma Foundation, but I think it comes at an opportune time in the sense that Techlahoma, whether we want it to or not, is becoming more and more of a sort of a face in the technology and entrepreneurship world here in Oklahoma. And, originally it was a lot of us who were just nerdy technologists who want to get together and talk about the technology that we work with every day that we like. And that has just grown very, very, very organically. And it's very much a bottoms up, community driven sort of community. And that really, it lent itself to remaining very, very active over the pandemic. And so we've only grown. And now we have, I think, over 4,000 people, probably closing in more on 5,000 people in our public Slack channel. We have a newsletter that goes out to almost 10,000 people. We run the 3 major tech conferences here in the state, UXOK, which is a UX conference, Thunder Plains, which is a primarily JavaScript conference, and then 200OK, which is a web development technology conference in Tulsa. And then we have more than 25 user groups that are meeting all over the state, starting to get back to in-person meetups, which has been really great. And we just get together, connect, talk to people. And really our mission is to empower all the technologists of this state through connection, opportunity, and education. So we're really big on all 3. Really big on just connecting people to find the right business opportunities, really interested in creating more opportunities and filling the opportunities that exist. and then educating people who are interested in this line of work, which again, that has also grown over the pandemic, people who are looking at changing careers and all of that. And so any way that we can help educate people who are already in technology, and any way that we can educate people who are interested in technology can only benefit all of us. And so it's actually great to be speaking with you all who are involved in ADA. We have not a whole lot of rural presence, unfortunately. We did have 2 user groups that were meeting in Muskogee, but through the pandemic, those have started to just kind of assimilate into the Tulsa groups, especially because we're moving to a bit of a online first model like everyone has. And so even when we get back to meeting in person, I think we'll kind of keep that going. And so we don't know what that means for involvement with our rural communities, but nonetheless, we hope to be a resource, be a community that also helps with what is going on in all of our rural communities also, because there's a lot of people don't know about all the great technology folks, remote work, and entrepreneurship that's going on in these small communities. So I'm happy to kind of make this connection, because hopefully we can continue to do more things together. And so so the thing that I think I'll kind of talk about now is, the being connected in this community has been really helpful for my career. I think one of the things, I'm naturally wired this way, so I don't anticipate this being something that everyone kind of connects to, but I'm a natural connector. I love saying like, oh, you have this need and you have this skill. I'll just introduce you, like, not a big deal. And I kind of love doing that. And so, but regardless, like being amongst other people who are connectors or who provide services or goods or needs or whatever, or people who have those needs, just having a community space to be able to do that. And all it is a public Slack channel, right? We started out as independent user group meetups, needed a central place to communicate. And now our primary place to communicate as a foundation is our public Slack channel, which anyone can join. So I encourage anyone who's interested to join. If you're kind of more on the entrepreneurship side, there is, just as a quick side note, there is a tech and entrepreneurship channel. There's also a consulting channel. There's also a couple other channels that would be interesting for anyone who's just kind of purely on the business side. There's a couple of design groups. So if you're into design or the artistic side of things, there's room for you there. And of course, if you're on the technology side, there's all sorts of channels for that. Hop on there, feel free to hit me up, join Tech Talk or the general channel. Those are the 2 big ones. So, but yeah, so as I moved into working for myself full time, it was very, very important that I had the right resources to pull from, the right people to talk to. And I kind of I personally sit in this kind of like gap between the business side and the product side, and then also the technology side. I think that that's the space where I bring value, the most value. And so that's been very important, because some days I'm going to be working on a really hard engineering problem, and I'm going to need help from people who are much more skilled than I am, and who are willing to give help. And that's one of the great things about just the community in general, whether on the entrepreneurship side or the tech side, that people are just willing to help. And I think that that's been the primary sort of driver as to why this community has been so successful organically. And then some days I might be working on business problems where I'm needing to ask more general questions. I remember asking a lot of questions about how people price their work. And there's actually a whole channel dedicated to how consultants and independent contractors sort of develop pricing for their services, because there's a whole methodology to that I had no clue about. And everyone was really, really willing to help me understand how I needed to be pricing my expertise, providing services, and that sort of thing. And the couple of the areas that I've been involved in personally is I wanted to give back. So I was given an opportunity to work on the job, as I touched on earlier, and learn. And so I don't really think of myself, although technically I guess I am self-taught, I don't consider myself self-taught, because I was able to get a paycheck while learning on the job. A lot of people in our community are trying to do it just on the side, or they're taking off of work in order to learn a new skill, and that's really difficult. And so one user group that we have is Free Code Camp, which is anyone who's interested in continually learning how to learn software development skills, and there's other skills kind of around tech, like product management, project management, design, all those sorts of things that we try to just help and give guidance to those folks who are trying to learn. So we really try to be involved there. I've given several lightning talks on different things there. And then another organization I'm involved in is OK Coders, run by ICCEW, which is at OU. And we really are the only sort of boot camp-ish model that's in the Oklahoma City area. Tulsa has Holberton School, which is a full-time boot camp. And our model is really for those looking to kind of transition, but don't have the ability or the budget to be able to transition full-time. And it's a very, very important talent pipeline for the community. And so, again, education is very part of the Techlahoma Foundation. We collaborate actually and have a channel where the organizers of Free Code Camp and OK Coders collaborate on different things and how we can kind of help in a twofold manner. Free Code Camp's really for part-time sort of hobbyists. I'm interested in tech, I'm learning more. And then if you really want to commit to something part-time, then OK Coders is definitely the place for you. And so, and then I've done, another thing is with opportunity, right? So another thing, I'm actually an advisor for several startups who have gotten off the ground here in Oklahoma City. There's startups who they get a lot of the advice and acceleration, maybe through a program or something for getting their startup off the ground. However, sometimes they may need technology or product advice, which is kind of where I come in. And then I also have a healthcare background, so some of them are healthcare companies. And so one of the areas that I've been able to fill a need has just been, hey, you know, whenever you have a startup who's getting off the ground, they need some advisement, I'm able to come in and help them. And then I'll leverage Techlahoma as a community for recruiting people who could be other advisors, people who could be initial engineers or principal engineers for that company, people who could be CTOs. Several startups have been looking for CTOs who are actually skilled in kind of the C# stack. So if you know anyone who is interested in kind of taking a risky move and being a part of that, then definitely hit me up. I know of at least 2 startups who are looking at that. So, and so I guess really the moral of that story is that people are your greatest resource, and they always will be. And so what Techlahoma provides has always been a place for people, and really founded on a seedbed of people who are really willing to cooperate, give the right advice, and also to be really, really inclusive. I think that it's really hard to feel like you're excluded in our community. We take that very seriously, both from just kind of like hey, is there any like harassment or anything going on like that? Or is there just a general feeling that all of our user groups and all of our communities feel inviting to folks who are intimidated and who don't know about this world of tech? And we take that extremely seriously. I think that's been very crucial to our success. And so, so yeah, I think with that, I'm continuing to be involved as a board member. We're continuing to kind of step into kind of that entrepreneurship side, because that's not been historically a part of what we've been doing. A lot of our technologists are entrepreneurial. You know, there's a stereotype of engineers that we're all kind of just like in a dark basement, you know, not interacting with people. And some days that's really productive and really, really necessary. But there's a lot of people who have an entrepreneurial mind, and a lot of the founders of both Techlahoma and a couple other companies and organizations that have been around since the beginnings of the kind of the first wave of technology in Oklahoma that are extremely entrepreneurial, have created successful businesses, sold successful businesses, and I've learned a lot from being involved with them. So it's really been an honor to serve in this capacity. I think that it's a benefit and one of the biggest contributors to the ecosystem in the state. And I think that we're actually transitioning out of COVID into a new wave of technology and entrepreneurship in this state. I kind of break it up into 3 waves, at least from an Oklahoma City perspective. There's a first wave, and then there's a second wave, and I think that I'm definitely a part of the 3rd wave. And I think what's characterized this wave has been this introduction of the new. We have people who are really trying to build up the ecosystem, who are employees at Apple and Google, and who have a lot of experience from Silicon Valley and different things like that. But then also involving the people and building bridges with the people who have been here for a long time, doing this type of work for a long time, and then expanding that out to other groups and other areas. There's no reason why, bankers and real estate people and everyone else outside of the technology bubble should not also be involved. Another thing I should mention, just kind of as a brief side note, I'm also chair of a subcommittee of the Oklahoma Innovative Technology Alliance. It's one of the first kind of trade organizations where we engage politics. The person who's running it is kind of an experienced political engagement consultant. And that is something that's also been awesome to be involved in, because I think that on that note of wanting to involve other people and get the word out, there's been kind of different momentum at the state level and the city levels where we've been able to kind of advocate for our needs as technologists and entrepreneurs. And so that's been really, really awesome as well. And so that I hope to continue to build relationships at the state from that perspective, and continue to be involved there. I know that there's people at OMES who want to help and give talks and everything like that for Techlahoma. So all these relationships are really exciting. These are relationships that haven't existed in the past. And I think, again, in the same way that Techlahoma is kind of a microcosm of the ecosystem, it's kind of expanded. And the core to all that work has been just making connections and building relationships and building bridges. So, and I think I'll stop talking with that.
India, correct me if I'm wrong in how we do this, but normally we have a Q&A session. Given that there's mostly just, we have some people on Facebook Live, but given the people in the Zoom room, so to speak, are kind of small, we might just do this more like a fireside chat. So I might just ask you a string of questions.
Absolutely.
And if we have anything afterwards, maybe there's more Q&A. Does that work to you? Okay, we're literally making this up as we go along. So thanks for playing.
No, I'm happy to keep talking, but I'd rather know that, it's connecting and y'all get a little bit of feedback going on. So
yeah. Okay, so I'm going to start out in maybe a different kind of place, and let's just see where it goes. But
okay.
I was really interested when you said that you came from the humanities and you were a philosophy major. And I've had this thought as we've engaged with different digital skilling programs and trying to prepare people in our community to gain tech skills, that a lot of what we're seeing is the people that go on to, I think, be very successful in tech are people that can think critically, have good problem solving skills, can wrap their minds around something, be creative with solutions. So I'm kind of wondering, based on your experience, how much of, being successful with, a career in tech or being engaged in this sort of tech field is based on how you think versus the skills that you know?
Oh, that is such a great question. I would say that I would actually attribute an overwhelming majority of it to that. I think that systems thinking is very critical to business, and I think that systems thinking is very critical to technology. And I just kind of I've always seen the world as like hugely interconnected. I've never really been one to like categorize and segment everything. And so when I make connections between things, this is something that Elon Musk actually talks quite a bit about, like working from first principles and using what's called an exaptation, a learning from one domain of knowledge to connects to another domain of knowledge. There's actually a company here in Oklahoma City called Exaptive that builds products specifically that helps create or connect exaptations and knowledge bases from different people. And so I always co-opt that little nugget from them. But I think that that's something that I've always been interested in, is like making those jumps between domain knowledge. And I wanted to kind of get in and learn business whenever I was in college as a way of just kind of expanding my skills, but was extremely intimidated and found that I just lacked some of the more fundamentals to be able to get started. But I think that that's kind of there's no better MBA program than starting a business, right? So whenever I started the co-working space, and I actually had a subscription coffee business and a couple other things, and I just never considered myself an entrepreneur. And I was talking to a business coach once, and he said, well, it's obviously in your blood or something, because you keep starting businesses and thinking as an entrepreneur. So I think what happened for me is I kind of just backdoored into it, and maybe it was a part of me, and I just eventually started getting a bit of the fundamentals under my belt. And now I'm a resource. I'm a business consultant as much as I am a technology consultant, because I go through a rigorous design process to help identify problems before I ever introduce technology solutions to solve those problems. So I think because of me, again, it's kind of all just interconnected. It's all one enterprise for me. And I think that it's hard. I'll make a disclaimer that it's hard to identify the chicken or the egg, I think, in that. Like, I don't know if I was attracted. I think I was attracted to philosophy primarily because I'm a very fundamental thinker. When I switched to humanities from science, I was very interested in several fields, but all the questions that were super interesting to me were all extremely fundamental. And not only that, but philosophy has a really, really great way of being super dialogical, which was attractive to me. So instead of kind of pitting viewpoints against one another, instead of it being like politically charged or, like worldview charged or anything like that, it was just very much like, here's the facts, here's the logic, what do these say, talking about it from a very objective and dialogical perspective. And I really, really appreciated that, because I would rather build bridges than create artificial sort of like lines in the sand between different perspectives. And I love entertaining all the different perspectives, which I think is another reason why I love consulting, is because I can provide a lot of them without being sort of more biased one way or the other. So I think that folks who are wired towards a sort of like you said, critical thinking from an abstract point of view can be extremely successful technologists. And I would say whether they're wired more like an engineer, where they're in the problem solving game, which I love that part as well, or they're wired more kind of higher level, where you're trying to be a good product manager or manage a project or things like that. I think that they all take a certain level. And I think that college education done well just helps you to think, right? So I think that regardless of the subject matter, if it helps you to think, whether it's calculus or whether it's English, literature, it just helps you to think well. And being able to, I think, make that connection and really like communicate that to young folks, right? Like communicate that to students and say, like, you have to understand that you're not here to learn job skills. You're here to learn how to think and grow. And that's the purpose of, I'll use my philosophy education here. Like that's something that Plato and kind of the Platonic tradition of education has always been a focus on is, it's here to make you a better person. And by better, we mean also think well, think reasonably, engage people, relate to people, all the things, both on the hard skills and the soft skills side. And so I like looking at even liberal arts education from that perspective, which I think is maybe not the norm, right? Like we kind of think of education as really just a ticket to a job. And I don't think that that's the right way to look at it.
No, I think that's all really interesting, and it's getting me, thinking about as we try to reach different groups of people and expand, the availability of this education or these skills. I'm curious to think or get your perspective on what Techlahoma is doing to be more inclusive and reach groups of people that may not have been traditionally involved in these types of user groups or these types of events.
Yeah, that's a great question. I think that a couple of the things that are going on that I would point to, the education opportunities that we provide or learning opportunities really are, I think, really helpful. So, even if you're just kind of interested, it really is focused more on like the I'm learning to code side. So not so much like, other things, but there's continual momentum, and we're encouraging folks to, again, we're really community driven. So we're just encouraging folks, because we don't as a board run a lot of this stuff. It's a lot of just our community and we sponsor it. But we are encouraging folks to, hey, look, there's a lot of people in our product channel. Like, let's start the product hour back. There's a lot of people in the project management or consulting or design or anything like that. There is a design tech channel that's really, really great. But I think that what's been really awesome, another event that kind of, it's like really just a coalition of groups that's come together, one of which is Techlahoma, has been an event in Oklahoma City called Tech Plus Plus. Actually, if anyone wants to connect with me on LinkedIn or follow, I can send the information. Our next one's probably going to be in August. It's been about every other month. And last time we had to cap the tickets at 400 people. So it was like a lot of people looking to network, a lot of people looking to just understand tech. And we've done a great job, I think, of making it multivariant. So last time we had an artist do a showcase and another artist do one of the talks. There's usually like 3 small talks that happen there, little breakouts. And then if you want to continue to network, there's a space for that as well. And then there's been like bioscience people. There's been people who've just created tech companies or companies in general. One was a female person of color construction company, one of the more successful construction companies in Oklahoma City, who gave a talk just about what it was like to start that business in the 90s and stuff like that. And so that was a really, really great talk. So that event, I think, has been a really, really cool mechanism for trying to bring folks together from that perspective. And then again, as far as like just general inclusivity, we take that seriously just from a policy perspective. Sometimes it's hard to enforce, and sometimes it's hard to know like what is the feedback of like, do people feel included if they are not, into writing C# code or playing around with Raspberry Pis, but yeah, I think all those things kind of tie together. I would say that it's something we've also recognized that we don't necessarily do well because our DNA is just different. Our DNA started with just a bunch of hobbyists and people who work in technology who just want to get together and talk about that. And again, whether we like it or not, we're in this position where we are kind of a face of technology. And so our board is really taking that seriously of what does it look like to step into that more and take ownership of it. So we're definitely learning from that perspective too.
Yeah, it sounds like you guys are really responding to what's out there and finding a way to adapt quickly rather than just saying, well, this is what we do. This is only what we do. We're not veering from it, right? So
sure, yeah, and also recognizing we do what we do well. Like all the organizers for the Tech event meet on the Techlahoma Slack channel. That's how they organize everything. So while Techlahoma is not equipped to necessarily be that thing that does that and makes that happen, the community members certainly are, and they are there to make that happen. And there's a lot of really, really great momentum coming out of that. There's some pitch event ideas. There's some project ideas. There's some investor relation ideas, venture capital relation ideas, and a lot of different fantastic opportunities that I think are going to come out of that particular. So that's an example of like, we're not equipped to be that thing that drives that, but the people who are involved are, and we can just definitely be a supporter of that and be involved and be vocally involved, right? Like be willing to be involved rather than just like sit on the sidelines.
yeah, and thinking about that, we're working in rural Oklahoma, we're trying to find ways of really, encouraging the community that's here and, bringing in new people into this. And I'm really curious, you mentioned that there was an interest on the side of Techlahoma's board to, reach more rural areas and reach other parts of the state.
Yeah.
What do you think, in your opinion, what that could look like? And, how would you want to engage with a rural community? What kinds of things would Techlahoma, best work with, right?
Yeah. So the first thing I would say is, again, we are community driven. So the first thing I would say is if there's enough momentum to create a official user group, or maybe even like this type of event or something like this that becomes a part of that, or if there's technologists who are interested in putting together a web technology or enterprise IT or something like that type user group, that would be the best way. And I know that can be like kind of hard and intimidating. We just really need someone who's willing to kind of take charge of that. So reach out to me or reach out to someone on our Techlahoma Slack, email us. Anyone would be willing to help come alongside you to kind of get that started and just kind of be a part of that. And of course, a part of that, like Techlahoma ends up sponsoring that user group. And so we provide a little bit of money for, like food for lunch or breakfast or whatever, and different connections to different sponsors and people in the community who would be willing to help kind of get that started. So that would be the first thing I would say. The second thing I would say is, especially thinking about like, the whole jobs and skills perspective, we have a lot of people like free code camp organizers and different things who are really interested in what does it look like to help people continue to gain skills. I don't know what this would look like, whether it be kind of like a one-on-one mentorship, or whether it be like a group thing, or whether it be even more just kind of like a distributed type thing. But I would say thinking through like, what would it look like to have people like come together and maybe work on a civic tech project, or have some leadership to be able to get together some sort of educational series on a particular technology topic or entrepreneurship topic or leadership topic or something like that. Any of those, and that could even end up becoming a seedbed for creating a user group of some sort that we could be involved. And then we might have user groups depending on what connection points they would have. I think it would take a little bit of exploring like what stuff is in Ada, what people are in Ada and their skills and interests versus what we already have in Techlahoma, and maybe like, okay, you all can come to Oklahoma City one week and then we can come down to Ada one week or something like that, like some sort of like co-location or something like that. We'd totally be open to something like that. I'd have to talk to the user groups, but the board is always interested in just kind of being resourceful and helpful. We're very stretched thin as a board always. It's just kind of how it perpetually is for the board, but happy to help how we can from that perspective.
And I'll give you guys a little bit of credit. Today was a huge help to us, and I think a really good first exposure to maybe some people in Ada about what you guys do and how they can get involved. So I think even today was, we really appreciate your time and getting this ball rolling and raising some awareness just as a first step. So
Yeah,
just know that you're already doing it in my perspective.
Great. I love it.
Yeah.
Nice.
Do we have any other questions? Anyone from the audience want to jump in?
I don't. I thought those questions were great, Jim. I think you kind of touched on all of the points that I was thinking about. But Devon, if it's okay with you, we can send some follow-up information with information about Techlahoma, possibly how to connect with you, if that sounds good.
Yeah, that sounds great. I can send all of my contact information. I'm on LinkedIn, very active on LinkedIn, so feel free to follow me. Twitter also, my email address, I have like a website that has my calendar on it. So if anyone ever wants to schedule a short call, happy to do that as well. And then just from like our perspective or all the stuff I got going on, my consulting business, like anyone who has technology needs or really just business needs that they're having a hard time thinking through how to solve or build or anything like that. That's what I do. I build teams and processes and departments for technology and software development. So I'm happy to, lend my expertise there. The company I'm a part of, Smarter Firms, and the CTO of Smarter Firms and co-founder, we're actually closing a round of funding. If you know anyone who's really interested in investing in legal technology, then we are happy to add on to this round. So definitely hit me up. And then with Techlahoma, get involved, join this public Slack channel and just kind of look through the channels and find some areas that you might be interested in. We currently use Meetup also, so you can find Techlahoma user groups on Meetup to just kind of like follow them, get notifications for when the next Meetup is, join online, it streams to Twitch, and all of that, and YouTube also. And then also, I also am the fundraising chair for the Techlahoma board, so I have to throw this out there. We're actually going also through a fundraising campaign from June to August. August 15th is our last day, where we have a donor who's just willing to say like, hey, we'll match 10 grand of whatever you raise over the summer. There's just kind of what's the word? Kind of a patron of Techlahoma, and it was really generous of them. And so we're kind of focusing on trying to recoup from the pandemic and trying to get some, funds in the coffers to be able to throw some bigger events. We have a couple of networking events going on in both Tulsa and in Oklahoma City, as well as the Tech Plus Plus event. So those 3 different events I just mentioned: networking event in Tulsa, networking event in Oklahoma City, and then the Tech Plus Plus in August in Oklahoma City. We'd love to see folks from Ada come up and join and just introduce yourself and say hey and all of that. So it's a lot going on and all of that. But if any of that was of interest, I'm happy to provide more information and just continue the conversation. So.
Awesome. The Tech Plus Plus event especially has kind of been on my radar. Seen a lot of familiar faces there, and we'd love to join sometime. But with that, Devon, thank you so much. Really, really appreciate you talking to us today and sharing this information. We are recording this call, so we'll upload it on YouTube for anyone who's able to catch it up later. And we really look forward to kind of continuing this conversation and possibly collaborating more in the future.
Yeah, that'd be great. I look forward to it as well. I think we'll be able to do something cool.
Awesome. So, well, we can keep our meetup short today. Thank you all who joined, and we will be on again the second Wednesday of the month in August. Thank you,
Awesome.
everyone.
Thanks
Thank you all
all.
for having me.
Yeah.